You wake up in the morning, you swing your legs off the bed, and before your feet even hit the floor, your knees are already talking to you. That deep, grinding ache that wasn't there 10 years ago. Or maybe it was there, but quieter, like a whisper you could ignore. Now it's a conversation you can't walk away from. Your back is stiff. Your hands feel like they belong to somebody 20 years older. And you think, well, this is just what happens. This is just aging. But I want you to consider something today that might change the way you think about every single one of those aches, every one of those stiff mornings, every trip to the pharmacy where the bag gets a little heavier each year. Because there is a community in this country, living right here among us, that doesn't experience aging the way you and I do. And I've spent a long time trying to understand why. My name is Margaret, and I'm a health researcher. I am not a doctor, and I'm not here to prescribe you anything. What I am is someone who has spent years digging through nutritional research, studying traditional food systems, and trying to figure out why some communities seem to age like fine leather while the rest of us crumble like old plaster. And the community that keeps coming up in my research again and again is the Amish. Now, before you picture a postcard with a buggy and a barn, I need you to understand something. The Amish have rates of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and obesity that are dramatically lower than the general American population. A study out of the University of Maryland followed Amish communities in Lancaster County and found cardiovascular disease markers that would make most cardiologists scratch their heads. These people work hard, yes, but that's not the whole story. A huge part of their advantage sits on the table 3 times a day. They eat real, whole, traditional foods that your great-grandmother would recognize instantly. Foods that modern science is only now catching up to and saying, oh wait, these actually work on a biological level we didn't fully appreciate. That's what this video is about. 10 foods the Amish eat daily, or very close to daily, that the modern food system has pushed to the margins, that nobody is advertising on television, and that contain compounds powerful enough to make pharmaceutical researchers pay attention. I'm going to tell you what they are, why they work inside your body at the cellular level, how to prepare them the way Amish families actually do, and exactly how much you need. If this is your first time here, I'd love for you to subscribe and hit that bell, because I put out research like this every week, and I don't want you to miss what's coming next. And do me a favor, leave me a comment right now and tell me this. What's the one food from your childhood that your grandmother swore by? The one thing she said would keep you healthy that maybe you stopped eating somewhere along the way. I read every single comment, and I learn from you just as much as you learn from me. Now, let me explain something quickly before we get to the list, because this is the foundation everything else sits on. The reason most of us feel the way we feel after 50 or 55 isn't because our bodies are falling apart randomly. There's a process happening called chronic low-grade inflammation. Your doctor might call it systemic inflammation. Think of it like a pilot light on a stove that never turns off. It's not a bonfire, it's not an emergency, but it burns 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and over years and decades, it damages the lining of your blood vessels, it stiffens your joints, it makes your cells resistant to insulin, it fogs up your brain. The modern American diet, with its seed oils, its refined sugars, its ultra-processed everything, keeps that pilot light cranked up high. The Amish diet, almost by accident of tradition, keeps it turned way down. Almost every food on this list works on that same axis. Reduce inflammation, support gut integrity, stabilize blood sugar, and give your cells the raw materials they need to repair themselves. Your doctor knows this in theory, but in a 12-minute appointment with 14 patients waiting, there's no time to sit you down and walk you through what to put on your plate tonight. That's what I'm here to do. Let's get into it. The first food is raw fermented sauerkraut. And I don't mean the stuff in a can on a grocery store shelf. I mean real, living, bubbling, tangy, home-fermented cabbage. In Amish households, sauerkraut is not a condiment. It's a staple. Almost every family has a crock, a big stoneware vessel, sitting in the cellar or on the back porch, where shredded cabbage and salt are slowly transformed by lactobacillus bacteria over weeks into something extraordinary. If you've ever walked into an Amish root cellar in October, you know the smell. It's sharp and alive, earthy and clean, like the ground after rain mixed with vinegar and something almost fruity. That smell is the smell of trillions of beneficial bacteria doing their work. Here's why this matters to your body. Your gut lining, which is only one cell thick in most places, is the barrier between your bloodstream and everything you swallow. When that lining gets damaged, which happens from processed food, antibiotics, stress, and alcohol, molecules slip through that shouldn't, and your immune system goes haywire. That's the pilot light I was talking about. Fermented sauerkraut delivers massive quantities of live lactobacillus and leukonostoc bacteria directly to your intestine. A single tablespoon of properly fermented sauerkraut can contain more probiotics than an entire bottle of those $60 supplements you see at the health food store. Research from the Max Planck Institute has shown that these bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which literally feeds the cells of your gut lining and helps them seal up tight. Here's how to do this. Buy a head of organic green cabbage. Shred it thin. Toss it with 2 tablespoons of sea salt per head. Massage it with your hands until the juices release, about 5 to 8 minutes. Pack it tightly into a glass jar or ceramic crock. Press it down so the liquid covers the cabbage completely. Cover loosely, and let it sit at room temperature for 7 to 14 days. Start eating 2 to 3 tablespoons with your largest meal of the day. Every single day. Don't heat it, because heat kills the bacteria. Just put it on the side of your plate, cold, right next to whatever else you're eating. The second food is bone broth. And this one runs so deep in Amish food culture that it's almost invisible to them. They don't think of it as a health food. They think of it as the liquid that's always on the back of the stove. When an Amish family butchers a chicken, a hog, or a steer, nothing goes to waste. The bones, the knuckles, the feet, the cartilage, it all goes into a heavy pot with water, a splash of apple cider vinegar, and whatever root vegetables are on hand. That pot simmers low and slow, sometimes for 24 hours, sometimes for 48. The broth that comes out is thick and golden, with circles of fat on the surface catching the light. And when you put it in the icebox, it sets up like jelly. That jelly is pure collagen and gelatin, and it is one of the most powerful gut-healing foods that exists. The amino acids glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline are the building blocks your body uses to repair the gut lining, maintain joint cartilage, and synthesize collagen in your skin and connective tissue. A study published in the journal Nutrients found that glycine supplementation reduced markers of systemic inflammation and improved sleep quality in adults over 50. The collagen in properly made bone broth also contains chondroitin sulfate and hyaluronic acid, the same compounds sold as joint supplements for $30 or $40 a bottle. You get them free from bones that most Americans throw in the garbage. Get beef marrow bones or a whole chicken carcass from a local butcher, preferably pasture-raised. Cover with cold water. Add 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. This helps pull minerals from the bones. Bring it to a boil, then drop it to the lowest simmer your stove can do. Chicken bones go 12 to 24 hours. Beef bones go 24 to 48. Strain it, let it cool, and drink 1 cup every morning, warm, with a pinch of salt. Your joints will tell you the difference within 3 weeks. The third food is raw apple cider vinegar. And I need you to pay close attention here because this one has more science behind it than almost anything else on this list. In Amish homes, apple cider vinegar is like a utility. It's used for pickling, for cleaning, for preserving, for cooking, and yes, for drinking. A tablespoon in a glass of water before meals is a tradition that goes back generations in these communities, long before anyone could explain why it worked. Now we can explain it. Acetic acid, the main compound in vinegar, has been shown in multiple studies, including a well-known trial from Arizona State University, to reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes by 20 to 30% when consumed before a carbohydrate-containing meal. It does this by slowing gastric emptying, meaning your stomach takes longer to release food into the small intestine, so glucose enters your bloodstream gradually instead of all at once. For anyone dealing with insulin resistance or prediabetes, which is roughly half of all Americans over 55, that is significant. A study in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that vinegar consumption improved insulin sensitivity by up to 34% in insulin-resistant subjects during a high-carb meal. 1 tablespoon of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with the cloudy stuff at the bottom called the mother, in 8 ounces of water, 15 to 20 minutes before your 2 largest meals. Don't drink it straight. It will damage your tooth enamel and irritate your esophagus. Always dilute it. And if you're on metformin or any diabetes medication, talk to your doctor first, because this can amplify the blood sugar lowering effect, and you might need an adjustment. The 4th food is liver. And I know some of you just made a face. I get it. Liver is the food that modern America forgot how to love. But in Amish communities, liver is eaten weekly, sometimes more. Calf liver, chicken liver, even pork liver. It's pan-fried in butter with onions until the edges are crisp and the center is still pink. It's made into liverwurst. It's ground into meatloaf where you can't even taste it. And there's a reason every traditional culture on Earth prized organ meats. They are the most nutrient-dense foods that exist, period. 4 ounces of beef liver contains over 800% of your daily vitamin A, over 1,300% of your B12, massive amounts of folate, riboflavin, copper, iron, and coenzyme Q10 that is essential for mitochondrial energy production. Your mitochondria are the power plants inside every cell. As you age, they slow down. CoQ10 keeps them running. Statins, by the way, deplete CoQ10, which is one reason people on statins often feel fatigued. Liver gives it back. The retinol form of vitamin A in liver, as opposed to the beta-carotene in carrots, is immediately usable by your body and is critical for immune function, vision, and skin integrity. If you hate the taste, here's the Amish trick that works every time. Take a pound of ground beef and mix in 4 ounces of finely ground liver. Season it well, make hamburgers or meatloaf, and you will not taste the liver, I promise you. Do this once or twice a week and you're getting a flood of nutrients that no multivitamin can match. Now pay attention to number 5 because this is where things get really interesting. It's full-fat raw milk. I know this is a controversial one, so let me be clear about what I'm saying and what I'm not. I'm not telling you to go buy raw milk. In many states, it's not legal to sell. What I'm telling you is what the research shows and what the Amish do. In Amish communities, raw milk from pasture-raised cows is consumed daily by nearly every family member. They drink it, make cheese from it, culture it into buttermilk and kefir, and churn butter from the cream. A large European study called the Gabriella Study, published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology, found that children who consumed raw farm milk had significantly lower rates of asthma and allergies compared to children who drank pasteurized milk. The difference was attributed in part to heat-sensitive proteins like lactoferrin and immunoglobulins that are destroyed by pasteurization. Raw milk also contains the enzyme lactase, which helps digest lactose, which is why many people who are lactose intolerant with pasteurized milk can drink raw milk without problems. If you can legally access raw milk from a clean, tested, pasture-based farm, that's a conversation between you, your farmer, and your doctor. If you can't or don't want to, the next best thing is full-fat, grass-fed kefir, which adds the probiotic benefit. 1 cup a day. Always full fat, never skim. The fat-soluble vitamins A, D, K2, and E are in the fat. Remove the fat, you remove the nutrition. The 6th food is the one that surprised me most in my research. It's lard. Pure, white, rendered lard from pasture-raised pigs. I can feel some of you reaching for the remote, and I'm asking you to stay with me for 2 minutes, because the story of how lard became a villain is one of the greatest nutritional deceptions of the 20th century. Before 1911, every American kitchen had a can of lard by the stove. Your great-grandmother fried in it, baked in it, made pie crusts that shattered into golden flakes. Then Procter & Gamble introduced Crisco, a hydrogenated vegetable shortening, and spent millions on marketing to convince housewives that this factory-produced trans fat was cleaner and more modern than the animal fat humans had been cooking with for thousands of years. The result was catastrophic. Trans fats are now recognized as one of the most dangerous substances in the food supply. The FDA effectively banned them in 2018. Meanwhile, lard was demonized and nearly disappeared from American kitchens, even though it never had trans fats to begin with. Lard is about 45% monounsaturated fat, the same type praised in olive oil. Recent meta-analyses, including a major review in the Annals of Internal Medicine, found that saturated fat is not associated with increased cardiovascular disease the way we were told for 50 years. And lard from pasture-raised pigs is one of the highest dietary sources of vitamin D. 1 tablespoon can contain around 1,000 IU of vitamin D, critical for bone density, immune function, and mood, especially in people over 50 who are almost universally deficient. Find a local farmer who raises pigs on pasture and ask for leaf lard, the cleanest fat from around the kidneys. Use it anywhere you'd use cooking oil. 2 to 3 tablespoons a day as your primary cooking fat. Your food will taste better than it has in years. Me conta nos comentários se a sua avó cozinhava com banha. I'm sorry, let me stay in English here. Tell me in the comments if your grandmother cooked with lard. I'd be willing to bet most of you over 60 remember the smell of that kitchen. The 7th food is fermented pickles, and this is not the same as the vinegar pickles in a jar at the supermarket. I'm talking about naturally lacto-fermented cucumbers made with nothing but cucumbers, water, salt, garlic, and dill. In Amish kitchens, pickle crocks sit right next to the sauerkraut crocks, and they serve a similar biological purpose with a different flavor profile and some unique benefits. When cucumbers ferment in a salt brine, lactobacillus bacteria colonize the surface and produce lactic acid. This preserves the food without refrigeration and supports your gut environment when you eat it. The fermentation process also increases the bioavailability of minerals in the cucumber, particularly potassium and manganese. Potassium is essential for blood pressure regulation and muscle function, and most Americans are deficient. Pack small, firm cucumbers into a glass jar with fresh dill, garlic cloves, and a pinch of mustard seed. Make a brine of 1 tablespoon of sea salt per cup of filtered water. Pour it over the cucumbers until they're completely submerged. Weight them down, cover loosely, and leave at room temperature for 5 to 7 days. Eat 1 or 2 a day as a side. And drink a little of the brine too. That brine is liquid gold for your electrolyte balance. The 8th food is oats, but not the instant oats in the little paper packet with the cartoon on the front. I'm talking about whole, steel-cut or rolled oats, cooked slow, the way Amish families have eaten them for breakfast for over a century. In many Amish households, a pot of oats goes on the stove before dawn and simmers while morning chores get done. By the time the family sits down, those oats are thick and creamy, topped with cream and butter, maybe some stewed fruit or a drizzle of sorghum molasses. The reason oats matter for people over 55 is a soluble fiber called beta-glucan. Beta-glucan forms a thick gel in your digestive tract that does 2 critical things. First, it slows the absorption of glucose, so your blood sugar rises gently instead of spiking and crashing. Second, it binds to bile acids in your intestine and escorts them out, which forces your liver to pull cholesterol from your blood to make new bile acids. A meta-analysis in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that 3 grams of beta-glucan per day, about 1.5 cups of cooked oatmeal, reduced LDL cholesterol by 5 to 10%. Buy steel-cut or thick rolled oats. Cook them on the stove for 15 to 20 minutes for rolled, 30 for steel-cut. Top with a tablespoon of butter or cream, a handful of walnuts, and some berries. The fat and protein slow digestion further. 4 to 5 times a week for breakfast. Your fasting glucose and cholesterol panel will start to shift within 6 to 8 weeks. In my experience, that shift surprises people who thought they needed a stronger dose of their statin. The 9th food is eggs, and specifically, eggs from pasture-raised chickens that scratch in dirt and eat bugs, which is exactly how every Amish chicken lives. The average Amish family eats eggs every single day, often 2 or 3 per person. For decades, mainstream nutrition told us this would give us heart attacks. That message was wrong, and the science has caught up. A landmark study from the University of Eastern Finland, following over 2,000 men for over 20 years, found no association between egg consumption and coronary heart disease, even at 1 egg per day. What eggs give you is extraordinary. 6 grams of complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids, significant B12, selenium, choline, and lutein. Choline is essential for liver function, brain health, and cell membrane integrity. Most Americans over 50 are deficient. Lutein and zeaxanthin protect your retina from macular degeneration, the leading cause of vision loss in people over 60. A study from Penn State found that pasture-raised eggs had twice the omega-3s, 3 times the vitamin E, and 7 times the beta-carotene of conventional eggs. 2 to 3 eggs a day from the best source you can find. Pasture-raised, deep orange yolks. Don't overcook the yolks. A soft or medium yolk preserves more nutrients. And the 10th food, the one I saved for last because it ties everything together. It's sourdough bread. Real sourdough bread, made with nothing but flour, water, and salt, leavened by a wild culture of yeast and bacteria, the way bread was made for thousands of years before commercial yeast existed. In Amish homes, the sourdough starter is a living thing passed down for years, sometimes decades. It sits on the counter in a jar, fed regularly, bubbling and alive. The bread that comes out of an Amish oven, golden and crackly on the outside, chewy and slightly tangy on the inside, with that aroma that fills the whole house, is not the same food as the sliced white bread in a plastic bag at the supermarket. Not even close. The long fermentation, typically 12 to 24 hours, dramatically changes the chemistry of the grain. A study from the University of Guelph showed that sourdough fermentation reduced phytic acid in whole wheat by up to 60%. Phytic acid is an anti-nutrient that blocks your absorption of iron, zinc, calcium, and magnesium. Remove it, and suddenly those minerals become available to your body. The fermentation also partially breaks down gluten proteins, which is why many people who struggle with conventional bread find sourdough easier to digest. And research from Lund University in Sweden confirmed that sourdough bread produced a lower and more sustained blood glucose response compared to bread made with baker's yeast. Buy sourdough from a real bakery, not the grocery store where sourdough is often regular bread with vinegar added for flavor. Check the ingredients: flour, water, salt, and sourdough culture. Nothing else. 1 to 2 slices a day with butter. Now let me tell you about Dorothy. She's 67, a retired school teacher from rural Ohio. About a year and a half ago, she was on metformin for type 2 diabetes, a statin for cholesterol, and omeprazole for acid reflux. Her fasting glucose was around 155, her A1C was 7.2, and her joints ached so badly she'd stopped walking her dog more than a block. She was tired, foggy, and in her words, starting to feel old for the first time. Dorothy didn't do anything drastic. She didn't throw away her medications. What she did was start adding bone broth every morning, eggs with sauerkraut for breakfast instead of toast and juice, lard instead of vegetable oil, apple cider vinegar before lunch and dinner, sourdough instead of store-bought bread. She found a local farm for eggs and started a small batch of fermented pickles on her counter. After 6 weeks, the acid reflux was almost gone. Her doctor ran blood work at 3 months. Fasting glucose was down to 118. A1C dropped to 6.4. LDL was down 15 points. By 6 months, her doctor reduced her metformin dose. The joint pain wasn't gone, but it was better, noticeably better. Enough that she was walking 1.5 miles every morning. Her doctor didn't tell her to stop. Her doctor said, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Dorothy's story isn't a miracle. It's what happens when you give your body the raw materials it evolved to run on, instead of the processed substitutes it's been struggling with. Now, I need to say something important, and I need you to hear this clearly. If you are on any medication, especially insulin, sulfonylureas, blood thinners like warfarin, blood pressure medication, or any drug you take every day, do not stop or change your medication based on this video. Some of these foods, particularly apple cider vinegar, sauerkraut, and foods high in vitamin K like liver, can interact with medications or amplify their effects. That can be a good thing, but it needs to be monitored. If you start adding these foods and your numbers change, tell your doctor. Show them what you're eating. A good doctor will work with you and adjust your medication as your body improves. The goal is not to replace medicine, but to give your body so much good raw material that you might need less of it over time, under professional supervision. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we covered today. These 10 foods aren't random. They all do the same quiet work from different angles. They reduce chronic inflammation. They repair and seal the gut lining. They stabilize blood sugar so your pancreas isn't screaming all day. They deliver fat-soluble vitamins and minerals in forms your body actually recognizes and can use. They feed the beneficial bacteria that run your immune system. The Amish didn't learn this from a study. They learned it from their grandmothers, who learned it from their grandmothers. The science is just finally catching up to the kitchen. Here's what I want you to do this week. You don't need to do all 10 at once. Start with 3. First, get sauerkraut going, or buy raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut from the refrigerated section of your health food store. 2 to 3 tablespoons a day with your biggest meal. Second, make a pot of bone broth this weekend. 1 cup a day, warm, in the morning. Third, switch your cooking oil. Get rid of the canola, the corn oil, the soybean oil. Replace it with lard, butter, or tallow from the best source you can find. Those 3 changes alone will start to shift your internal chemistry in a direction your body has been craving for years. Next week, I'm going deep on the connection between your gut bacteria and your brain, and why the foods that fix your digestion might also be the key to lifting the fog, the forgetfulness, and the low mood that so many people over 55 just accept as normal. It's not normal. And there are specific foods that target that gut-brain axis in ways that are genuinely exciting. You don't want to miss that one. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I mean that. Every one of you who watches, who comments, who shares these videos with a friend or a spouse or a parent, you're part of something important. You're choosing to take your health into your own hands, with your doctor, not against your doctor, and that is the most powerful thing you can do. I'll see you in the next one.